When you're visiting Kings Island and there's that one attraction that maybe you want to do just one more time, but the line's a little bit long, well, there's a way around that. Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans because that's who we are and that's who we care about.
So, Ryan, single-use Fastlane.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about this product.
Yeah, so it was introduced like midway through last year, in which there was just a couple of attractions where you could use it on. It was Flight of Fear / Orion. They had something back in Area 72 where you could purchase it, and it was dynamic pricing, so it was as little as $10, as much as 20. And then they had it for what was known as Woodstock gliders, and I want to say Flying Ace Aerial Chase was the other option over in Planet Snoopy. But from all accounts that we've seen, it looks like that this program is going to be extended. As many people have pointed out, they have new Fastlane scanners at a lot of the rides. And so the scanner, and if you're watching on the video version, obviously you're seeing on your screen there, that's the one from the racer. But that has the ability to do RFID, so you can tap it, or you can scan a barcode. It looks like the park is fully implementing the barcode at this point. But the one thing that I noticed when the app came out, when the new Kings Island app came out, was that they had single-use fast lanes available for purchase through the app. So with that being said, we're still early on, but it looks like this is something that's quickly going to be built, and it's going to be on the horizon.
So, Ryan, what is your thoughts on a single-use fast lane? Do you think that's a good idea to sell that product, or do you think it kind of takes away from the all-day fast lane, or maybe even the season pass, getting one for the entire year? Do you think it detracts from that a little bit to where you could just maybe just pick out a couple of rides you want to do?
I find it to be very complimentary of the other products, because if you look at the tiers, when it comes down to, you can spend, I think the most expensive I saw was Flight of Fear was like $20, because that always garners a long line. So you can spend $20 on that, or $125 and have Fastlane, all day, or spend, I don't know, $800 and have it all season. So I think that as far as like a pricing tier is concerned, it makes all the sense in the world. The implications moving forward is kind of different. But here's one thing that I have in mind that no one's really brought up yet, not on KI Central, not on the Season Pass group or anything like that. But so you're scanning fast lanes for validity, right?
Right.
Now they completely have the technology to sell a fast lane that's only good for one ride each, So one ride on Flight of Fear, one ride on Diamondback, and so on. Dollywood does it. So you've got one tier that's one time through each ride, and another tier that's unlimited. And I think that there are pluses and minuses to that, but if they have a cheaper option as a result of that, I think that it might be a net positive. Because I've noticed even at Dollywood, which has less coasters than Kings Island, sometimes I'm a big fan of their time saver program, or whatever they're calling it now. But I got the one time, I always bought the unlimited one, but I got the one time through one for free, staying at Dreammore once. And I kind of noticed that we didn't miss much with it by only getting to go one time through. So if this is one visit to Kings Island, you've got 12 major coasters you got to go through. So if your goal isn't the marathon, you may be able to save $20, $30 by getting a one-time through Fastlane. And then you have the option, as always, the subject of kind of the show here is purchasing the single-use fast lanes too. If you've really got a hankering for Orion or Diamondback or something like that, if you're willing to fork out $10, $15, $20, depending on the day, you can bypass that line.
Yeah, I like it. I think it allows the guests to kind of make the most of their day when they're at the park, depending on what tier you want to get. I like the fact that maybe you don't see the value in getting the all day one, because maybe there's only 2 or 3 coasters that you're interested in.
Sure.
So I really like the flexibility that it offers.
I like it too. And what I have in mind is, because I'm shopping out of my own pocket at this point, but I often show up at the park at 5:30. I'm not going to buy Fastlane if I show up at 5 o'clock. But if I go there and Diamondback has a 60-minute wait, I really want to ride it, I can just drop $10 and hop right on it. You know. Now there is a flip side though, and this is the thing that really kind of scares me. It's kind of like the AI thing where it's really positive right now, but we don't
You're
know
right.
what's coming tomorrow. Um, so you've got like Walt Disney World has Genie Plus. Genie Plus is very inexpensive for the most part. Uh, so when it comes down to it, you have to get Genie Plus if you want to do any of the attractions. My fear is that that's what this is going to become, where most people, essentially, if you want to ride Diamondback, if you want to ride Flight of Fear, Orion, the Beast, it's really like a $10 upcharge to do so. Because otherwise, you're going to be waiting in a line that's 90 minutes long. It's not really moving, and that's exactly the issue that they're having at Disney World. The standby waits are atrocious, but the lines aren't that long because they just they let through the Genie Plus people and then fill out 3 or 4 of those seats with the standby line people. So that's my fear.
Well, let me ask you this though, and
Mhm.
that's something that going back to the introduction of Fastlane, where there was a lot of complaints about how much longer was taking the standby line to get through. But those guests that have Fastlane or the this single use Fastlane, whatever tier that they've got, they're likely they would have been in line for something anyway. So
Sure.
in some ways, you know, yeah, I mean, it might make the line just a little bit longer, but they were still going to be in line for something in the park for the most part. So, the perception is it makes everything longer for the guests during the standby line, but maybe not that much longer at the end
I
of the
feel like the
day.
perception. I'm 100% on board with what you have to say, I feel like the perception is far more weighted than reality. I don't think it extends the line all that long, but that's even more true with the single use stuff because the risk that you have with the unlimited fast lane is that somebody could theoretically, ride a ride, go around, ride it again. So it's not just the one person that would be waiting in line. They represent maybe 5 or 6 people that would be waiting in line times however many people are in their group, you know.
Hmm.
So I definitely see the argument. There's always going to be a psychological thing where people aren't happy when they see people bypassing them in line, especially when they've waited an hour and these people are going right to the front. Um, and that's going to be true across every industry, and it's just human nature.
Oh yeah, I
But
mean, you see that at airports. There's certain different tiers of tickets that you can buy. You go
mhm,
to a baseball game, you can sit behind home plate and have food brought to you, and you can get a suite. I mean, it just depends on what you want to do to be able to experience whatever it is, whether it's the amusement industry or flying or going to a ball game. I mean, there's all those different tiers, and it's just the world we live in today.
it is, and it's always been that way. There's always been like haves and have-nots and so on. So we can't act like this is like a new thing and it's teaching kids something new or blah blah blah. Don't buy it for just a second. So, but yeah, my fear would be actually that it's priced too low, that they try to do it in volume. And as a result of doing it in volume, that's when it's like you kind of have to buy it. Because that's the problem.
Hmm.
It's funny because everybody complains how expensive Disney World is. And it is. But at the same time, the same people complain that Genie Plus is too cheap, which is also true. With Genie Plus, 20, 25, maybe $35 on a really busy day per person, but you have to have it. If Genie Plus was $60 or $70, a lot less people would be inclined to purchase it, and it would be less of an effect. So,
Yeah, I agree with you there, Ryan. That I think maybe it could be priced a little bit higher. Maybe you'll sell a few more units, but you'll overall make a little bit more money, and then
mhm.
the overall guest experience for everyone that is in the park, improves a little bit too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and honestly, I don't see them underpricing
Mhm.
it. I might see a situation where the park isn't busy and it's well, I last year when the park wasn't busy, they just closed all those booths and stuff. So I imagine this year, if somebody wants to buy a single use fast lane, for Orion, it might be $5 or something if the line's only 15 minutes. But at the same time, you see people with fast lane on rainy days when it's like faster to just walk through the queue than to go through the fast lane. But I imagine a lot of those people pre-purchased it and they just kind of got the short end of the stick as far as like they paid extra money to not have to wait in lines that aren't there. But people aren't going to make the impulse purchases if the line's like 15 minutes long. So that problem kind of solves itself. But at the same time, if the line's long, they know the product they have and they're going to make it 10, 15, $20. So this is one of those situations where pure corporate greed may work to your advantage, uh, if you're a Kings Island fan. But it's one of those things where I as I've gotten older, when I was in my 20s, I would always advocate like, oh, it's a business and it's got to do business things. But as I've gotten older, I feel like I've gotten a little bit wiser and I've been a little bit more of an advocate for the guests than I was in the past. So uh for me though, when they're doing this stuff, since you don't have to buy it right now, and we'll have a different conversation about this in like 3 months if it ends up getting out of hand, but if they can part somebody with $20 to hop on Orion, that kind of stuff pays for new rides and new shows and things like that. So there is a mutual benefit of it. So when they make good decisions and they get a good revenue flow and stuff, the park gets rewarded. So
Yeah, that is one of those things, Ryan. The parks, they continually have to find new revenue streams because,
yeah.
like everything else, every year, your electric bill at home, it's a little higher. It's costing you more to do, buy milk and groceries and those things. So same thing in the theme park industry. It's costing you more to staff the park. It's costing you more. Every year you do the pay like repave,
Mhm.
different areas in the park or new signage. Those things all cost money. Little things like that cost money or to put on a new show. So you have to continually find ways to generate more revenue.
Yeah.
And there's ways you can do it through products like Fastlane and single use Fastlane or um, sponsorships. I mean, Six Flags
Mhm.
is huge on sponsorship. Do you want to get to that point where it's Diamondback presented by Snickers or something like that? So there's all kinds of different ways to do it, but it is important for parks to find different ways to generate different revenue streams every year.
Yeah, and there's different ways of thinking about it too, because you can have it so it's the beast, the Snickers of all roller coasters, which that day may be coming, and that doesn't affect your ride experience, but it does kind of affect the look and feel. But on the other hand, this is a new product, and will it affect your time in line? Maybe a little bit, but it is still a new thing that's offered to you.
Yeah,
So this is something that's an option for you to enhance your day.
and the other thing, when you're going to a park like Kings Island in the spring, the water park's not open, so you have a lot more number of guests in the park riding the roller coasters and some of the other attractions. But once the water park opens on Memorial Day weekend, you kind of disperse the crowd out a little bit more. The wait time, it's not as bad as it's going to be in the spring or in the fall. So before you would maybe buy single use fast lane or something, just gauge how it's going for you. Maybe by 11:30, you get a pretty good read. Do I
Mhm.
need it or I don't need it? It's not something you have to buy, right when you get there.
Well, and also it's kind of like 6, 7 o'clock. Even like for the beast, I'm thinking like Beast or Diamondback night rides. It's 9 o'clock, it's 9:30, it's dark out. You really want to ride, but it's a 90-minute wait, and you want to watch what's the new fireworks show? I can't think of it. Um, but you want to watch the fireworks show, so you can drop that $20 or $15 and go for it.
Yeah, but I really
So
think it's a great thing to, make the most of your day. Make sure you get to ride the rides that you want to, maybe as often as you want to. So I have no problem with it. I think it's something that, a lot of guests want. They want those premium experiences.
I yeah, and I think that that is something that it was discovered quite a while ago, and a lot of parks have been kind of hopping on that. We talk about VIP tours. We're talking, the initial implementation of Fastlane. It was because I remember on KI Central, a lot of people saying like, because it was like $80 at the time, and this was before Fastlane Plus, which is now there is no normal Fastlane at Kings Island. It's just Fastlane Plus or something. But they were like, how could you spend $80? To skip the line? That's so much money. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, for me, I go to Kings Island all the time. I wouldn't want to spend $80 to skip the lines. If I went to Cedar Point, though, I might drop $80 to skip the lines.
Yeah, you go to Cedar Point, you go to Carowinds, you go to Knott's. If that's you're only there one day, you want to make the
Mhm.
most of it. So, if you're spending the money for airfare, hotel, and everything else, what's another $80 at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And and if you want proof that it worked, I mean, it's still a program, and Cedar Point charges upwards of $200 for there sometimes.
Yeah. So, like I said, if it's a lot of the guests, I mean, they want those premium experiences. They want to be able to make the most of their day, and Fastlane and the different tiers of it is a way to do that. I would certainly, if you're planning to visit the Kings Island this summer, certainly check out those different options that are available, and pick the tier that's right for you based on what your interest is for that particular day.
Yeah, and now to be clear, there is no one-time fast lane. That's just something that I'm speculating that they have the ability to do now. So there's really just two tiers. There's the individual
Right.
season pass, and then um and then you've got the regular season pass. Well, I guess you have all season pass too is an option, but um so if you want to, feel free to chime in on the conversation in the comments on this YouTube video. Tell us your thoughts on Fastlane. Do you ever partake in it? Do you have all season? Do you ever buy the individual? Do you get the individual single use from Prestige? Do you think that it's a net positive or a net negative for the park? And we're talking about from a guest perspective. Um, and while we're at it, what we want you to do is, I've got these packets of cards. We've got, set one of opening day cards. We're going to do something a little different this time. I want you to tweet at us at tower_topics. And I want you to just tweet the word Fastlane to us, the word Fastlane to tower_topics. And you could be entered into a random chance to win a pack of these cards that we're giving out on opening day. So that's really, really cool. But let's move on to the listener question.
All right, what do we got?
So we got one from Jim Flugel, friend of the show. He said, iStream Music hasn't changed its playlist in a while. What music would you like to hear played as you enter the park? He also mentioned he's available to be a guest. We'll definitely have you on, Jim. Yeah. You were invited to the live stream and you said no, so I'm a little sour about that. Totally kidding. So like when Paramount owned the park, they played mainly Majestic music. And then they had some like movie themes moved in there, like a lot of Danny Elfman stuff. That's how I always remembered it, and that's how I kind of wish it would be. But before Paramount, did they just play like symphony music? Like, what did they do?
It was a lot of that, Ryan. I would like it to be something like that. And you even think back to the 50th anniversary is a little bit like that, or some symphony type music when you come through. I would like something that is not, filled with vocals, where it kind of sets the mood. It tells you that you've stepped into a different, world away from your everyday life. Just something that's kind of an atmosphere setter is what I'd like to see on International Street.
Yeah, I would hate to see the top 10 hits come back. I thought that was terrible. I'm not a huge fan of like the modern song transcribed into the symphony because I can't unhear the song. If it's like a Lady Gaga song, like I pick up on that immediately and it kind of
Mhm.
ruins the mood for me. I would much rather see them just play like, I don't know, Wagner. And I'm so speaking out of term. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But regular symphony music, because it kind of adds to the majesty of
It
the
does.
fountains and the Eiffel Tower and International Street and so on. So
Yeah, it's supposed to be a magical day at Kings Island, so I would like to see the music kind of set the tone, for what you're about to experience as you, walk in through the front gates and throughout International Street. That you're not in Kansas anymore. You're in a totally different place.
yeah, absolutely. So once again, oh well, Jim, thank you for the question. And yes, we will have you on. Absolutely, you're welcome whenever you want. So remember, keyword Fastlane, tweet it to tower_topics. If you leave it as a comment, then it's not going to count. That means you can't follow simple directions, much like me. But hey, I'm Ryan Sir along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.